Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my reaction of UFC Fight Night Fiziev vs. Torres or Azerbaijan. Let's get started. Let's go right into it. This was a very fun card, and so let's get right into it. We start off with the first fight of the night, Tahir Abdullayev versus Jefferson Nascimento. Now, I picked Jefferson Nascimento, and the reason why was mainly based off his record. He was 13-0. Tahir Abdullayev was 21-3 going into this. Now he's 22-3. And the reason I picked Jefferson Nascimento is because he's undefeated. And how did he look in this fight? He looked like he's never fought a day in his life. Came out there, I don't know what the fuck the game plan was. The guy is just circling around. Round one throws basically nothing. I think he threw 7 strikes total. And Tahir Abdullayev, somehow he ends up being the entertaining one in this situation. And yeah, just pressuring forward and not doing much himself, but at least he was pressuring forward. And the punches that he threw, they looked more dangerous because Jefferson Nascimento was just running away. And yeah, so he gets round one. Round two, Jefferson Nascimento is like his corner told him, hey man, you're in a fight. I don't know if you know this. It kind of looked like he was told right before he got into the cage, hey man, would you like to fight? And he's like, I don't know how to fight. And they're like, no, get into the cage, just fight. And he's like, all right, fine, against this Dagestani guy, so I can just circle around for a while. And that's what he did. And round two, he comes out looking like, ooh, round two, what a barn burner. I think he threw 15 strikes as opposed to his 5 in round one. So, you know, just absolutely insane from Jefferson Nascimento. And yeah, and so he won round two with like throwing 15 strikes because Tahir threw even less and he had no idea how to cut off the cage. And then round three, Tahir realizes, you know what? I'm just going to shoot some takedowns instead. I'm going to do what I do best because my last name is Abdullayev. And that was great because he was actually starting to kind of gas, which is funny. Like, I wonder if that was Jefferson Nascimento's game plan. Like, let's just run away until this guy gasses out, and then and maybe it's because he kind of looks like Shamil the Blob Gaziev, and so he thought that just will translate right to this guy. But it did not, because even though when he got tired, he still had enough energy to shoot takedowns, and he took down Jefferson Nascimento, and that's how he clutched up round three. I'm talking about this as if it went to decision, which it didn't, because he ended up landing like a couple ground and pound shots, Tahir Abdullayev, and Jefferson Nascimento just started turning away and had bad body language, and the ref just stopped the fight. He was like, it doesn't seem like you want to be here. Fight's over. And it was a ridiculous stoppage because Jefferson Nascimento was still there. Now, would he have won? No, because it was 1-1 going into the third, and he spent a lot of the third on his back, so he was not going to win that fight. But he did show bad body language, so it's kind of his fault, although he was not out whatsoever, and there was 30 seconds left in this fight, so it didn't have to be finished. But his last name is Abdullayev, and he was in Azerbaijan, so they wanted him to get a finish, and so he got a finish. Not much. I don't want to talk about this fight anymore. I am done with this. Let's move on to the next fight. Bekzat Almakhan versus Gene Matsumoto. Okay, now this was a very fun fight. And if we had to give fight of the night, I feel like they might do instead, on a card like this, because there's so many finishes, they're going to do 4 performance bonuses. But if they do 2 performance bonuses and a fight of the night, this is a fight of the night. This is the fight of the night. Very entertaining. Round one, and this one, I predicted this well. The only prediction, basically, that I had on this card. Bekzat Almakhan versus Gene Matsumoto. Bekzat dropped him in round one badly, so Gene was going for these calf kicks, and he was doing very well with these calf kicks. And then every once in a while, he would switch it to a thigh kick instead of a calf kick. I don't know why. They just do less damage, and there's no point of it, really. But Bekzat countered with a cross down the middle, dropped Gene badly, but Gene ended up working his way back up, worked his way back into the fight, even got a takedown at the end of round one. And his corner told him after round one that he won, even though he got dropped just because of the takedown. No, that's not how this works. Hasn't been like this for years. I don't know what you're saying, and it almost costed him the fight because this was a close, competitive fight. And in round two, he comes out. Bekzat starts slowing down a little bit, and Gene started pressuring. Instead of letting Bekzat come forward, because he has great boxing, Bekzat Almakhan, but Gene just pressured him the whole time, didn't let him find his rhythm anymore. And even though Bekzat would still land, Gene would land back, and Bekzat kind of lost that power from round one. Kind of like I said in my prediction. Hey, sometimes I get things right. And so Gene won round two just by pressuring, landing the calf kicks as well on both legs, if I remember correctly. And then round three, kind of the same thing, but was very dangerous as his corner told him in round three, like going into round three, Gene Matsumoto's corner tells him, you're up 2 rounds, just coast this round. And that was very risky, very, very risky, very dangerous, should not have done that, because at the end of round three, Gene Matsumoto starts circling out, and that was very risky because if round 3 went to Bekzat Almakhan, he would have lost the fight. But he did just enough in round 3 to kind of get the decision. But it's a very entertaining fight. The strike 69-70. Is that what it says here? 89-70. That makes more sense. So I guess pretty high output. And most of the fights on this card were just like quick finishes or not the most entertaining fights. And this one was actually an entertaining 3-round scrap. And Gene Matsumoto pulls it off. Very competitive. Could have gone either way, honestly. But I guess Gene Matsumoto pulled it off with the last 2 rounds. And good for him. Good fight. That was fun. let's move on to Daniil Donchenko versus Theodor Bergren. Now, I was worried at the end of round 1 of this fight because every card, it used to be, every card, you had a free square. There was always one fight that you're like, all right, this is going to help me with my prediction rate. There's an obvious pick over here. And Daniil Donchenko was the guy on this card. But recently, we've been having some situations where you fucks up all your picks. And so I was worried because Daniil Donchenko, round 1, doing very well. He trains with Rafael Fiziev, and you can tell because they have a very similar fighting style. He was doing the same thing of like leading away from the body kicks and stuff. But he's just super entertaining. Super gets into his flow state. And just looked great. Had some nice calf kicks, nice body work as well. And Theodor Bergren, though, he was no joke. He was in there the whole time, firing back, and at moments, like, he was catching Daniil Donchenko with stuff. And going into round 2, I was getting a little worried because Daniil Donchenko, he fights for a finish every time, which is why we love him. He's very entertaining. But at the same time, he does gas out. And in round 2, he starts slowing down a little bit, but he ended up saving himself with a head kick. Not saving himself. What am I saying? He was looking great, but he was slowing down a little bit, and I started getting worried. But then he landed his head kick very quick, drops Theodor Donchenko. That's not his last name, Theodor Bergren, and gets the perfect follow-up shots as Theodor is trying to recover and ends up getting the TKO. Looked great, and it's just nice to see. Man, it's just nice to see these entertaining guys get the finishes. I've been a big fan of this guy ever since The Ultimate Fighter. Which was the last season of The Ultimate Fighter. I'm talking about him like I've known him for years. Yeah, I've been a fan of him since right before he got to the UFC. Whew. I've watched his last 4 fights or 5 fights, whatever it is. But yeah, he's super entertaining. I'd like to see more of him. And you know what's crazy? I thought after this win, like, give him a shot at the rankings. He's 3-0 in the UFC or whatever it is. Looked amazing. He already had the grappler test. Let's just put him in there. But then you look at the rankings in UFC, and it's like, man, at welterweight, it's no joke. Like, welterweight's fucking stacked, you know? So you can't even really justify giving him a ranked opponent right now. He probably needs one more win. Unless you go by AI. Because according to AI, he's going to be ranked like number 7. You wake up tomorrow morning, and he's ranked number 7 because he got a win recently. AI, recency bias. That's all they are. But yeah, anyway, he looked great, and he should definitely get a step up. If not a ranked fighter, just one right outside of the rankings. Anyway, let's move on to the next fight of the night. Kaan Ofli versus Javier Reyes. Now, I got this pick wrong, but I did say in my predictions that Javier Reyes rushes in with his hands down, chin in the air, and that's what he did in this fight. And I didn't think Kaan Ofli would be able to get the knockout because he does have good boxing fundamentals. And he also does look like Michael Chiesa, if you asked. He looks exactly like Michael Chiesa before Michael Chiesa did a whole bunch of shit to his face that makes him look like Ben Affleck now. But before that, the original Michael Chiesa, Kaan Ofli looks exactly like him, just miniature. But anyway, Kaan Ofli, let's get back to the breakdown, huh? Kaan Ofli, he had good boxing fundamentals, and that's all you really need against Javier Reyes. I didn't think he'd have the power, but Javier, looking like one of the Walker brothers, rushing in, hands down, chin in the air, gets dropped badly by Kaan Ofli, and from there, like, Javier started recovering, and I was like, okay, this is kind of how I saw it would go. Let's see what happens now. But Kaan Ofli just didn't let him get back to the feet, landed great ground and pound shots, and ultimately got to mount. And from there, it's kind of over, because Kaan Ofli, he does have really good jiu-jitsu, ends up getting the arm triangle finish, and he looked happy to get this one. And of course, everyone's happy when they get a finish in the UFC or even get a win in the UFC. But he really needed this because his last fight, he won by like split decision. It was kind of a robbery. The fight before that, he lost. The fight before that, he got knocked. He got a submission at some point, but he got knocked out. He's needed this. This was actually a good performance from him for the first time in the UFC, besides for that submission he got. And good for him. And yes, and Javier Reyes is absolute dog shit. And I kind of told you, I just didn't think that Kaan Ofli would be the one. But I guess he got flatlined sooner than we all thought. Let's move on to the next fight. Nursulton Ruziboev versus Andrey Pulyaev. So this one I got right. No, good for me. Andrey Pulyaev, I basically said, like, the thing that he's known for is not getting knocked out by Teba Gutierrez. And that's really it. And but he hasn't actually done anything. And I probably should have stuck to that logic a little bit more, but I didn't. And anyway, yes, let's talk about the fight. Andrey Pulyaev, I have to apologize. I said in my breakdown that he's not 6'4". He did seem to be 6'4", if Nursulton Ruziboev is 6'5". But Nursulton Ruziboev did have the frame advantage still. And he ended up just grappling early. He landed a couple shots first. And then he shot a takedown, got to the back body lock, and just threw in those long-ass fucking legs. Got to the body triangle. And he did like the professional grappler triangle, the body triangle. It's like when they want you to know that they're good at grappling. So instead of doing the body triangle outside of the leg, they do it inside of the legs and hook the inside of your leg like a grapevine. And that's what he did. And it kind of just stops you from turning. You're not turning anymore once that happens. And so he tried to finish the rear naked on one side. Wasn't working. Rolled to the other side. Ends up getting the rear naked choke. Puts Pulyaev out badly. Took him a while to come back to consciousness. And a great performance from Nursulton Ruziboev. Looked good. His only loss in the UFC is to Joaquin Buckley. And that was at 170. And since he moved up to 185, he's undefeated. And he's looking good. And he's got a nice frame for the division. And yeah, and good for him. Good performance. Let's move on to the next fight of the night. Abdul Rakhman Yakhyaev versus Julius Walker. Wow. Yeah, let's get into this. So this was just an insane fight. No, it ended in 8 seconds. Abdul Rakhman Yakhyaev landed a total of 6 strikes. 4 of them were ground and pound shots. He just came in, threw a jab, threw a rear hook over that, and dropped Julius Walker badly, like folded backwards. Landed a couple ground and pound shots. And Julius, the fighters, they have to stop doing this. Julius Walker was protesting the finish as if we didn't see his head bouncing off of the canvas. You were out, bro. You were out. And what exactly were you going to do from that position? But yeah, Abdul Rakhman Yakhyaev looked great in this fight. I did have some doubt. I picked him, but I didn't think he should have been that big of a favorite. He was like a minus 650 favorite, and I didn't think that should be the case because in his last fight, even though he got the sub in round 1, he did get rocked badly right away on the feet. And that was against Brennison Ribeiro, who's not good at all, and you should not be getting rocked by him. But he did. And so I'm always going to remember that moving forward. But in this fight, I mean, you can't even really call it a fight. 8 seconds, they were saying it's the second fastest knockout in UFC. Obviously, the first one is Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. But that was, quick, nice fight. And he's going to be a star based off this. We're not going to pay attention to his last fight, except for me, and I'm probably going to pick against him at some point and look stupid if he wins. So let's move on to the next fight of the night. Eric Nolan versus Farman Hasanov. Maybe I should have used my logic from the last fight, saying that if your best thing is looking good in a loss, maybe I shouldn't pick you. But Farman Hasanov ended up winning. I thought that Eric Nolan would be able to stuff the takedowns enough for Farman to gas out, and then he'd be able to get a knockout or win the last 2 rounds. And I was almost correct. Farman in round 1 looking like Khamzat Chimaev, just chain wrestling from thing to thing to thing. But Eric Nolan, to be fair, was getting up from a lot of the takedowns. And what he would do is Farman would drag him down, and he would just give his back up to stand back up. And Farman just doesn't have in his skill set the ability to take someone's back by just like throwing those hooks in. I guess, well, he's gigantic. And honestly, when I saw the face-offs, in my head, I was like, man, Farman's probably going to win. I didn't realize how big he is. Because he's only 1 inch shorter than Eric Nolan. And look at the body composition. Look at this body. And then look at this body. This guy is double the size of this guy. And they're the same height. So it's kind of fucking ridiculous. Like, Farman Hasanov has at least 15 pounds on Eric Nolan. So yeah, and so he ended up like bullying him in round 1. But Eric Nolan was getting up, and in round 2, Farman started slowing down, and Eric Nolan started using that jab. But the problem is that's all he was using. He was just using the jab, and Farman had just enough energy to keep on getting these takedowns. He had a suspicious amount of energy, let's just say, in this fight. Very suspicious, because at the end of this fight, he ended up winning round 2 and 3 with just clutching takedowns and getting control time. But they were comparing him to, they were saying welterweight Merab over here. And fair play, right? Let's see how many, it's not going to tell me how many takedowns he got. But he got a crazy amount of takedowns. And they're like, this is welterweight Merab. Now, here's the problem with that. If Merab is a bantamweight, and we're already questioning his cardio suspiciously, using a little bit of EPO, we don't know. If there's somebody at welterweight who's being compared to the guy much lighter than him who has a suspicious amount of cardio, maybe this guy has a very suspicious amount of cardio too. But let's not ask any questions. Farman Hasanov gets the win by decision. Eric Nolan just didn't have enough. In the later rounds, if he just had something other than a jab, if he threw in some uppercuts, some hooks, a little something to get some damage going, maybe it would have gone different. But he was getting taken down, and in the last 2 rounds, he got tired too. And, even though he did way less than Farman Hasanov, he was just as tired as him. We're not going to question it. Farman Hasanov gets the win. He's now 6-0, and can't wait to pick against him in his next fight. Let's move on to the main card. Magomedov versus Michal Alexeychuk. Man, this was disappointing. Michal Alexeychuk, I picked him to win, and he was on a little streak going into this. And I just thought he has a good chin, good fundamentals. He'll be able to pressure Magomedov, maybe lose the first round, but then come back in round 2 and 3. But instead what he did, instead of having good boxing fundamentals, he had terrible boxing fundamentals and just came in like a fucking retard, honestly. Came in, he's like hand fighting with his lead hand, his rear hand dropping to his hips the whole time, throwing like these wild hooks and overhands and stuff, and just looking like he had no respect for Magomedov. And I mean, fair play, like, he's not a super respectable opponent, but he has power. And Abus was just stinging him on the back foot right away. Like, right away I turned to the person I was watching this fight with, and I was like, hey man, he's got to be careful. He's very open on the feet, and even though he's pressuring, he could get caught. And what happens is he ends up pressuring a little bit too much. and he gets hit with this elbow. And if you look at the freeze frame of the elbow hitting him square in the face, both hands are by his hips. He's like going for a body shot, shit in the air, hands by the hips, and just getting elbowed square in the face, ends up getting dropped. And as he tries to get back up, Abus pulls the guillotine and ends up putting him out with it. And Michal did tap, but he got put out anyway. And so that was the second guy that we saw out cold on the canvas, which is pretty cool. But yeah, anyway, he loses that fight, and that sucks. He looked bad, man, and I really like Michal Zaitchik, and I didn't see him losing this fight because I don't remember him being knocked out before. You know, he's been submitted, he's been hurt to the body, but never like this. And I guess he still didn't really get knocked out. He's pretty tough, built back up. But Abus, after dropping him, landed a couple great ground and pound shots, perfectly timed, straight into that guillotine. So good one from Abus Magomedov. I was wrong about this one. Let's move on to Ikram Liskarov versus Bruno Ferreira. Now, this one I was right about. And not just was I right about this, I was very right about this. The picks that I got right, I got very right. And the picks that I got wrong, I sometimes almost got right. But this one right here, Ikram Liskarov versus Bruno Ferreira. Yeah, so what did I say about this? I said that, like, Ikram, first of all, he's very well-rounded. And it's rare for a Dagestani to be this well-rounded. He's very, like, he's actually, you can say he's mainly a striker, but he has the grappling when he needs it. And Bruno Ferreira doesn't really have much. He doesn't have the fundamentals. All he has is, like, hooks, and he throws them, and sometimes he clips you with them. And if you're Robocop, coming in careless, you might get clipped with one of those and go out if you're chinny. But Ikram was just staying behind the jab and the leg kicks and the leg stomps and the body kicks. And then whenever Bruno would come in swinging, he would just shoot under that, take him down, and just hold him there for a little bit. And then he did that for basically 3 rounds. And at moments he got tired, but so did Bruno Ferreira. And like I said, and this is probably the only time that watching tape actually helped me to predict the fight. But Ikram in his last fight against the Iron Turtle, whenever he got tired, he still had that ability to take the fight to the ground. And that's what we saw here. Even at moments where he was tired, he was still able to get the fight to the ground. And against stocky opponents like Bruno Ferreira, it's going to be tough to wrestle them to the ground with single legs and double legs. But he was using like the Islam Makhachev kind of trips, the inside trips, the outside trips. The trips where if you're the taller guy, you can still use your frame for that. And so that's what he did, and he ended up winning a decision. And he actually looked very good. And he asked for a big step up, and he should get one. Because his only losses are to Hamzat Chimaev and Robert Whittaker. And those are fair losses, you know? So, yeah, I'm looking. I actually kind of like this guy. He kind of uses mixed martial arts. And that's cool. Like, you don't know if he's going to strike or shoot a takedown. He just does it all. And nice. Good for you, man. Let's move on to Asu Almabayev versus Charles Johnson. Man, are we just not allowed to pick Charles Johnson anymore? Is that what this economy has come to? You just can't pick Charles Johnson in this economy anymore. You can't really have risky picks anymore. I was scared for my life in this card. I almost went negative. I've never gone negative, and I don't intend to ever. But this is 2 cards in a row now that I've been super close to going negative. I went 7-6 on this card, and I just can't do these picks anymore. You can't pick a Charles Johnson in 2026 unless he's fighting somebody who might be the champion. And I guess Asu is not going to be the champion. But Asu looked really good in this fight. Let's talk about it. Charles Johnson comes out with the skullet, looking terrible, looking like he attached a clown wig to his head and then shaved off the front and just left the back. Every time he fights, it catches me off guard. You think you're going to get used to the fucking whatever he's got going on, but every time it gets worse. It just grows. It's like a fucking vine growing on the back of his head. But what I did say in my breakdown, which kind of came true, is that if you pressure Charles Johnson, you can win a decision, or in this case, submit him. But that's like in his losses, it's when you go forward with pressure. The second you go backwards, Charles builds into a fight and he starts catching you with these weird lanky punches. But Asu just came in, no respect, throwing heavy punches, heavy hooks, heavy overhands, and then he would also shoot takedowns under that. Because Charles Johnson, whenever he would pressure, he would use a lot of kicks, and his corner told him, stop kicking. But what did he do? He kept on kicking and get taken down every single fucking time he threw a kick. So Asu took him down, held him down in round 1, round 2 as well, and he just had good control, and like, Charles just couldn't get rid of him. Whenever he would get up, he would like try to run away, and Asu would just stay connected at the hip, and Charles just couldn't get that distance that he needed. And then round 2, when he came out again, like, he would do well on the feet, stinging him up a little bit, but then he would throw a kick, and his corner told him not to. He did it anyway. And he got taken down again, and at some point he even slipped, and just once he was down, he couldn't get up. He was doing well with those with those butterfly hooks, and he was almost sweeping Asu Almabayev, but Asu's like a short, stocky guy. It's going to be tough to sweep him. And then round 3, he tries to build up by giving up his back, and Asu just threw those hooks in, and he gets in with a Sulov stretch. And man, I feel like we're seeing these a lot now. We're seeing all these weird submissions. Sulov stretch this week. Last week we saw that executioner / twister. A few weeks ago we saw that girl get that calf slicer from close guard. That weird one. We're just seeing these. People are just going for things they saw on Instagram these days, and it's fucking working out, you know? But yeah, it's funny because it's not that crazy of a submission. I mean, it is, but it's not crazy as in you see it coming like 30 seconds beforehand. Like he was very high up on the back, and I've actually practiced this. This is like the kind of thing where you do practice it. Well, you don't practice getting out. At no point was there ever a jiu-jitsu class where the teacher said, we're going to learn how to escape from a Sulev stretch. I don't know if there is a way. Once you're in it, you're kind of fucked. And when Charles Johnson was put in it and he fell forward with his knee by his face, he even kind of let out like a, fuck, man. Like, why are you doing this to me? You're already winning. Why can't you just win a decision? There's a minute and a half left to this fight. Just fucking hold me down so I can say later you were stalling. Why do you have to do this to me? I have kids. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if Charles Johnson has kids, but I would assume he does. And he already humiliated himself with that hair. He doesn't also have to be put in a Sulev stretch. But Magomedov gets a Sulev stretch. Aljamain Sterling was in the house too, so maybe that added to the vibe. And good win. His only loss in the UFC, I believe, is to Manel Kape, which is aging pretty well, especially because he got eye poked like 3 times before the finish. But yeah, looked good, and he should get a bump up. He's ranked number 9, I believe. And yeah, he's a nice contender in flyweight division. Let's move on to the next fight of the night. Nazim Sadykhov versus Matheus Camilo. Another pick I got wrong, and at this point, I was being very fucking scared because I think at this point in the card, I was, 5 and 6. So I had to get the next 2 picks right in order to go positive on this. And the way this card was going, I didn't fucking know anymore. Because I picked Nazim Sadykhov because I thought that he'd be able to push the pace and survive a round 1. And once it got to round 2, round 3, he's a dog. And he has more experience in those rounds. But apparently Matheus Camilo just has 1 punch knockout now. And apparently Nazim Sadykhov is super fucking chinny because I think he was like, what is this? 0 strikes landed? Are you fucking serious? I was about to say he landed some leg kicks just because I assumed that's what happened. But I think Matheus Camilo landed his jab and his calf kicks. And I told you he has jab and calf kicks. I just didn't think, man, he couldn't knock out any of his other opponents. But here we are. Fucking, when he threw like two calf kicks, Nazim is just switching stances, working his way in. And Matheus just landed, I believe it was a hook over the guard. He fell back badly, like a Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou kind of falling back over his knee. And then Matheus just followed up with a couple punches. And Nazim Sadykhov was covered up in like a half guard position, not answering back. And so they had to stop the fight. This is not even like that other fight that we saw in the first fight of the night where they stopped that and it was kind of early. This one was not early at all. Like, bro, you're out. I know that he has made a name for himself for getting dropped early and then coming back and getting a knockout. But there was no, you're not going to win this one. I'm sorry, man. It's a minute and a half into the fight. You were dropped badly and you're defending yourself. Like, he wasn't getting hit back, but he wasn't answering back. And what was your plan from there? What were you going to do from that position after being dropped badly and getting hit with ground and pound shots? He wasn't trying to improve position. He wasn't moving. He was just kind of there. And after the ref stops the fight, he popped up to his feet. But if the ref didn't stop the fight, he wouldn't have popped up to his feet because he would have still been under Matheus Camilo. So Matheus Camilo gets the win. You can kind of call this a fluke. You kind of can. We haven't seen this before from Matheus Camilo. And Nazim Sadykhov, like, it was kind of a lucky punch, maybe, I guess. But, I mean, it was a good win for Matheus Camilo. Nothing really to break down here, you know? But it was very entertaining. And this fight has just had a whole bunch of finishes. This card has had a whole bunch of finishes. Super entertaining. Let's move on to the next fight of the night. Shar Magomedov versus Michal Pereira. And I was very impressed with Michal Pereira. Man, he has had unbelievable cardio in this fight. I was like, man, he switched up his dose to whatever it is, came in looking a little leaner, and he had, I swear to God, he had like 4 minutes of cardio in him, which is like 8 times the amount of cardio he usually has in a fight. He dropped Shar Magomedov early in the fight. I believe it was like a cross down the middle as Magomedov was going for a kick, drops him badly, and throws ground and pound, and Shar Magomedov, fucking cheater. Fuck you, man. He cheats in every single fight, by the way. He grabbed the back of Michal Pereira's braids. He has a little pony. He grabs the pony and is pulling down with one hand as he's landing ground and pound with the other hand from bottom. And Herb Dean, being Herb Dean, warns him about it nicely like 3 different times and has to like pry Shar Magomedov's hands off of Michal Pereira's like fucking pony. And then Shar just goes right back to it. And after like 3 times, Herb Dean like separates them. And he doesn't even take a point. He just tells Shar Magomedov, hey, man, would you mind not grabbing the fucking pony of Michal Pereira and landing ground and pound shots? Because it's fucking illegal. Now, am I going to do anything about this? No, because I don't mind if you do illegal shots. But please stop. Which at this point from Herb Dean is more than he usually does. I'm surprised he even stopped it at all. But then they go right back into that position. And Shar kept on landing ground and pound. But that was it for round 1. And as we know with Shar Magomedov, he's only good in round 1. There's something wrong with this guy. He doesn't use a lot of energy. I don't understand why he's gassing out so quickly. To be fair, I wasn't kidding. He had 4.5 minutes of cardio in this fight. He usually has about 1 combination of cardio in him. This time he had a full round of cardio. But round 2 and 3, he just slowed down a lot and He had moments. He had moments in the last 2 rounds where he would explode for like 10 seconds, throw a flurry of punches, but Shara was like just quick enough to get out of the way. And Shara, like, round 2, Michal Pereira super slowed down. And Shara only lands 20 strikes. How are you only landing 20 strikes on a completely gassed out Michal Pereira? And they're all like leg kicks too. So it's not like Shara looked good. He just had a victim in front of him, because that's what happens. You survive round 1 against Michal Pereira, and the rest is coasting. And he kind of knew that. Even though he got dropped badly in round 1, I still knew that even after that, I still knew he was going to win round 2 and 3. Just because if you survive round 1, you're going to win against Michal Pereira. And so that was that. And even I poked Michal Pereira. A little sneaky. It should have been a draw, honestly. They should have taken a point away from Shara Magomedov because of the eye poke, especially after already grabbing the braids and fucking throwing punches as he's doing that. He said it was by mistake, but he stretched his fingers out and then used his shoulder and hips to push the fucking fingers in. Like, he threw it like a jab as an eye poke. And Michal Pereira, man, when you're gassed out and you get eye poked, that's a gift from God. Take the 5-minute break, but he didn't. 1 minute in, gets right back into the fight as he's still gassed out and lost round 2 and 3. And that's what happened. I'm not surprised. I picked this to happen. So yeah, again, like the picks that I got right, I got very right. But the picks, but there weren't that many of those, you know? Anyway, let's move on to the main event of the evening. Rafael Fiziev versus Manuel Torres, the main event. Boy, am I happy I got this one right. I saw a lot of people picking Manuel Torres, and they had their reasons. This was a pick-em. A lot of the fights on this card were close fights, and that's why it's like a very risky card to predict. The ones like this where you don't have a lot of information on everyone, and it's kind of tough. But I got this one right, and we stayed positive on this card. You know? Thank God. But yeah, round 1, Manuel Torres is looking good, but Rafael Fiziev just got in his face right away, and he's tighter. Manuel Torres in his last fight, he got a knockout. But the guy, I don't remember the guy's name. But what was the guy's name? I don't remember. But the wrestler, we know who I'm talking about. He was throwing like these weird fucking hooks, and when he was throwing these overhands and hooks, he was leaving himself right in range for Manuel Torres to counter him. And Rafael Fiziev is not like that. He's a high level striker. I understand he lost to Gaethje twice and he lost to Rufi, but these are high level guys, and there's just levels to this shit. That's what it is. It's a y'all must have forgot kind of moment. Rafael Fiziev in round 1 stayed tight, was landing his signature calf kicks and body kicks, and he even pulled the leaning back of the body kicks. You're never going to land a body kick on him. You cannot land a body kick on Rafael Fiziev. There's no point of even trying, but Manuel Torres did try. And round 1, he was doing pretty well, and Manuel Torres at the end of round 1 started finding his range, started finding that jab and even cross, and I was getting a little worried. Because Rafael Fiziev also, why are you showing up to every single fight with busted eyes? How come he already shows up? I've never seen this guy not have a fucked up face. In this picture, what's this over here? What's this over here, buddy? Why is your face fucked up? It's always fucked up, and so you're always worried. And he always shows damage. So round 1 could have gone either way. You could probably give it to Torres based off the last couple of seconds, but Rafael Fiziev looked good until then. And in round 2, comes back on the pressure, and I told you, like, Manuel Torres, all of his finishes are in round 1. So if we don't know that he has bad cardio, but you would just have to assume that if somebody's always going for a finish in round 1, what happens if you leave round 1? And so we found out what happens. Fiziev lands a spinning wheel kick. They're back. Spinning wheel kicks have never been more back. He lands it, and it even hit Manuel Torres' guard. But, like, think of it. We've seen head kicks hit the guard and still knock people out. Now think of, instead of a head kick, it's a spinning wheel kick. And so how much coverage are you really getting with a fucking glove, you know? So even if it hits, you're going to have to block that. You're going to have to move out of the way. Spinning wheel kick, like, what do? You just have to move out of the way. You cannot absorb that amount of power. We even saw that with the Michael Chandler fight. The same thing with Rufi. Like, they didn't land cleanly. They landed around the guard. But you have to move out of the way. There's no blocking those. And so he lands it, drops Manuel Torres, and as Manuel Torres tries to come up, Fiziev just landed like the great counter shots and just dropped him again, and he finished it. And good for him. Man, I'm so happy for him. And he looked so happy for himself. He hasn't had a Fiziev performance in a while. I remember on the come up, people were picking him against Gaethje, and it was a close fight in the first one. And then he popped his knee. And then he came back on short notice against Gaethje and almost won again, but then got dropped. And then he lost to Rufi, but he beat Ignacio Bahamondes. And we've never really seen that Rafael Fiziev, the one that looked good against Moicano, and he knocked him out. And I know it was like an early stoppage, but he still looked good. And he looked good against RDA. And I'm just happy because he's young. He's not even that old. He's like 31, 32, whatever it is. Like, he still has time. And I feel like we never really saw him make his real run. And this is just happy. I'm just happy to see him win. He won in his home crowd. And he tried to leave the cage, and they just didn't let him. What the fuck, man? Let him go see his family. But they didn't. They locked him in the cage until after the fact. and he just looked so happy. I think he was crying even, and fair play, you know. Having this is the best time to have this performance in front of your home crowd. Good for him. I went 7-6 on predictions, so we still went positive. Not great. Second week in a row I did this shit. But you know, you gotta do what you got. Last time I went 7-5, so we're getting worse. But this was a tough card to predict, so I am satisfied with my picks, you know. And thank you for listening to this breakdown. This was a great card. I told you guys, because when I was breaking it down, I said, like, very low-level fighters over here, and I'm not wrong. They are. And before I'm done, what the fuck was Bekzat Almakhan versus G Matsumoto doing in the second fight of the night? That should have been on the main card. Let's look at the fights. I'll tell you which one it should have been in front of. It should have been in front of Nazim Sadykhov versus Mateus Camilo could have been on the prelims. Ikram Liskarov versus Bruno Ferreira could have been on the prelims. Even Abus Magomedov versus Michal Zaitchik. All of these fights should have been under G Matsumoto versus Bekzat Almakhan. Like, that was like, whoever wins that is going back into the rankings. G Matsumoto. Like, his only losses are by split decision to people who are really good, you know? But yeah, all in all, this event was really good. Like I said, the fights were not amazing, like name value, but they always, especially in cards that are in front of an audience, they always just do better because there's always people cheering, and you kind of just get guilt tripped into not being boring, except for the first fucking fighters, you know. Anyway, so great card, and yeah, like, share, subscribe, whatever it is, and stay tuned to this channel to see what we have next. Thank you all for watching, and see ya.